everyone. Thank you for coming. Small group today. Holiday. We should have maybe thought about that, but that's all right. Brad's here. Heather's here. Tanya's here. So yeah. Anyways, why don't we start by getting everybody get food? Is this your first time? Anybody? No. Chloe, this is your first time. Oh, it is. Okay. Um, yeah. So we're doing live on YouTube now, which is kind of cool. Zach's bumped this up into the 21st century.
I've been promoted to IC.
So for YouTube, my name's Nate Howard. I'm the executive director of YouTube Land Bank. This is our first Friday property management house meeting, where we try to create space for people who are involved in different innovative things related to those two topics to come and share and get people from overseas to listen and ask questions and just kind of see what comes of that. So thank you all for coming. So anyways, yeah, we have food. Why don't we do everybody get the food real quick? We'll come back, introduce Caitlin, and then launch into our meeting today. Thank you. Everybody, this is Petrona. She does great catering. I have her cards. I'm going to bring them out. But like, if you need anything done, it's always top.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Caitlin, introduce yourself. The one thing I would say is that as I've connected with Forge Indiana, East Central Indiana, used to be ECIRP,
Yes.
East Central Indiana Regional Partnership. That they've, our connection has, or my connection with their organization has been all the work that they've done related to Ready 2.0, and now this Lilly grant focused on supporting arts across Indiana. But I would say, and I don't know if Caitlin, you're going to get into it today, but they do a lot beyond that. It's just been what's kind of on, the urgent thing, because I know that there's a lot more that they do that's really important for our region. But anyways, I'm going to pass it off to Caitlin.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so yeah,
Perfect.
Normal format. Just go at it, and usually leave a little time for Q&A.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Nate. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'm Caitlin Hancock, President CEO of FORGE East Central Indiana. We are a small but mighty team of two. It's myself and Amy Madden. She's our marketing director for us. So we certainly keep busy with two people. I like to say, though, that we thrive in the chaos, and every day is different. So we are the Regional Economic Development Organization in ECI. So we work with 9 counties, as far north as Blackford, as far south as Wayne County, to assist and be a pipeline to our local economic development officials and organizations. We call them LEDOs, and we operate as a REDO. It's a slang that we use in the state of Indiana. So we work with them for new investment, to support our existing businesses, but also to enhance the quality of life in the region. So as Nate mentioned, we went through a rebranding last year. We were originally the East Central Indiana Regional Partnership. We rebranded for several reasons. One of them was that was just a mouthful I was tired of saying after a decade of with the organization. So we rebranded to Forge, and the reason that we went with Forge is back in 2020, as economic development continued to focus more on community development and quality of life initiatives, we looked at that and looked at just the state of the region and decided to create a talent attraction initiative that really looked at the population decline that the region was facing, also just a lack of awareness about some of the assets. We'd come across people who didn't know something existed in the county that was just right next to them, and so we wanted to provide the region and also visitors to East Central Indiana just with the assets that we had here in the region. So from that's where our Forge rebrand came from. And then to address the typical business attraction and retention efforts that we help with as well, we branded that side of our organization as Forge Your Growth, and that really just is focused on accelerating that economic opportunity and just building that infrastructure, business infrastructure here in East Central Indiana. So that's a little about who we are and what some of the things that we focus on. So really wanted to spend time with you all this morning talking about the quality of life, creative economy, and the opportunities that we have here in East Central Indiana. It's a little outdated data, but back in 22, the arts and culture industries added $9.3 billion to Indiana's economy. However, we ranked 47th nationally, which was well below the average of 4.3%, where we were at 2%. So there's work to be done in this, not just here in East Central Indiana, but in the entire state of Indiana, to address that. The creative economy is important because it's tied to higher wages. It grows wages, it boosts greater educational attainment in our region, and it also provides opportunities. It just sparks natural innovation within our communities. So Nate mentioned, we facilitate and manage the state's READY programs, and back at the end of Governor Holcomb's administration, Lilly provided additional funds to the already existing Ready 2.0 program, and they provided those funds to blight projects and also arts and culture. So every Ready region, there's 15 across the state, provided both those blight and arts projects that they identified that they wanted funding for. However, as the IEDC looked at some of those arts projects throughout the state, they noticed just a misalignment with the projects that were submitted and what the region was hoping to accomplish and aspire. So they asked each region to kind of take a pause on that and come up with a arts and culture regional plan. So over the course of a year, we hired two consultants, Sarah Peterson and Paige Sharp, who I'm convinced they know every single person in the state that's in the arts and culture sphere. So they were incredible, and they helped us craft the We Make Things Here regional plan to not only guide potential projects that will receive this LEI Ready 2.0 funding, but it's as you'll notice, a 10-year plan. So my hope is that it's able to be a resource to anyone and everyone as they, in the next 10 years, whether if you're an arts organization applying for some federal funding, if there's additional state funding, that this can be a tool for you to use and link back and say, this is what the region is hoping to accomplish, and this is how we fit into this space. So I wanted to highlight some of the goals within that. So the first one is to activate downtowns. With East Central Indiana, there's a variety of just different landscapes, I would say, of communities. I mean, we have Muncie as our core city, but we also have a lot of small towns in some of our rural communities, like Red Key. I live in Hartford City, which is a city of 6,000 people. So I have a huge heart for rural Indiana. And we're just at, towns and cities are at different places right now with how active their downtown is. So there's a need to address that. And some of those strategies come through enhancing identity and design, activating spaces with some public art and programming, and also restoring and reusing downtown assets through leveraging, for example, historic buildings and making those mixed-use creative hubs. So a good example of that last strategy would be actually in Hartford City. So if you've been to Hartford City, they have a historic downtown square, and you'll probably have noticed that over the decades, there's been a lot of disinvestment with some of those buildings. And so with one building in particular, it's the Newberry Daniels building. The city bought that, and over the past several years has been revitalizing that and restoring that. And so the building is split into two, and so the one side to the right there, actually they invested in a restaurant, and so they renovated that space and have been trying to attract a restaurant for about a year or two. And now that space is housed by Obie's Barbecue, which is a barbecue local business in Marion. So if you haven't been, if you're ever in Marion, Hartford City, and you're looking for some good barbecue, Obie's is a fantastic local restaurant that we have here in the region. So then the other side, though, was being unused. And so this became a grassroots effort through some of the residents. So to populate that space, they created what they call the People's Marketplace, and it's a space for vendors and artisans, to come and to sell their art and to sell their goods. And actually, a local resident, the picture on the right, he made all those wooden tables and those barriers himself. So this is just a great example of, it wasn't anything that was publicly funded. It wasn't anything they went after a federal grant for. This is just citizens and a community saying, we want to activate this space and working together to accomplish that. So I just thought that was a great example of the first goal. The second goal is connecting communities. So this is really leveraging cultural identity and creative experiences to increase and promote that exploration and tourism. So part of the strategies with that include celebrating our cultural heritage, linking our physical and cultural assets. For example, both Delaware and Grant County have Garfield trails, and Destination Muncie does a great job of promoting the trail here in Muncie and Delaware County, and the Grant County Tourism does a great job of promoting their trail in Marion and beyond. But there's could be, you know, opportunities to connect both and to mark both and enhance both. And additionally, I think one of the major assets in East Central is our recreational trails, and we have the Cardinal Greenway, and we're still you know, celebrating that as the largest rail to trail in the state of Indiana. So there's certainly opportunities to look at that and say, how do we incorporate more art and culture into our physical existing trails, and how can we provide that? And then additionally, just advancing regional tourism. So developing strategies that continue to tell the story of East Central, why we are hoping to grow, and just the great assets that we have here. Goal 3 is deepening next generation attachment. I really love this goal because it speaks to the next generation. It speaks to youth in particular, and really speaking to empowering that civic engagement, and how do we get youth involved in arts, and how do we empower them in also maybe that creative career pipeline as well. So strategies include empowering civic engagement, expanding arts opportunity, and this can mean just providing, you know, safe spaces in places like coffee shops and libraries, just really accessible spaces for our youth to be able to create, perform, and socialize within those spaces that we already have. And then additionally, building creative career pipelines. I think our region does a fantastic job with our workforce pipelines. Whenever I'm asked, like, what are the advantages of East Central Indiana? It's like, well, one of my first answers is we have 8 higher ed institutions. We have 3 Ivy Tech campuses just within our region. And so we have a great workforce pipeline. We have several, you know, high school career centers. So there is work consistently and being done in this front. But how do we maybe start integrating that line of thinking into the creative space as well? And how do we provide opportunities for students, some of those pathways that might not currently exist as well? The 4th goal is generating business opportunity. So this is really positioning artists to be able to generate opportunities through workforce development and any like material supports that they need to strengthen their impact. So some of the strategies include empowering creative capacity, so providing them with resources and training and what they need to thrive. And a lot of that we have, again, in addition to, I would say, workforce resources in the region, we have an incredible pipeline and resource of small businesses and just incubators, and the SBDC, for example, and Main Street. There are a lot of people doing work in that space. So how do we maybe further connect that sphere with artists and their creative capacity? And then the other strategy is growing creative opportunity, so expanding markets locally and regionally to promote talent. So this is just facilitating further retail opportunities and just encouraging some of those programs and co-ops in schools and communities to work together. And then the 5th goal is mobilize, collaborate, and communicate. So this is really working collaboratively together to promote those networks and build creative capacity for the region's long-term cultural growth. So those strategies include mobilizing county-level creative networks. So this can be as simple as just face-to-face meetings. Part of the challenge, I would say, of the region is that, like I mentioned earlier, you have like Muncie, which is a core city, and then you have some real small rural towns. And so for Muncie example, does an excellent job of, has the Arts Council, and there's infrastructure there that has been there for some time. However, a community like maybe Red Key or Hartford City doesn't necessarily have those same assets. So how do we encourage that to happen? And even if that's just encouraging artists to meet at that local coffee shop every month, like that is still a great first step to starting to build those creative networks and encouraging that interaction. And then also catalyzing a region-wide arts and culture movement. So this is something specifically that I've been thinking about, is how does Forge play a role in this, and how do we help start helping support more of our arts and culture and the creative economy here in the region. So I would love to see more collaboration across county lines. And I think this is valuable just because it provides, larger cities with the opportunities to help smaller towns and cities that don't have the same resources or maybe even the same knowledge that they do, and being able to just widen our impact by working collaboratively together. And I skipped over the last one. Okay, and then goal 6 is formalizing sustainable attainment. So this is like, how do we embed arts and culture into policies to ensure sustainability and investment? So one of the strategies is building support for arts and culture strategy. So engaging our key leaders as champions, our elected officials, and getting them involved in saying, okay, the arts are important to the growth of our cities and towns in our region. So, and additionally, also encouraging businesses to do the same, engaging with the creative space as well. Also building policy infrastructure, so formalizing local government policies and practices, and then securing sustainable funding for investment in arts and culture. So I think we've seen a lot of, with the READY program, we've been able to invest in some arts and culture projects, and with this LEI, READY 2.0, we will see additional funding with that. But what about post-READY? Like, how do we continue to encourage both our local elected officials to emphasize the importance of why this is key to local growth, and then also from a state aspect, how do we encourage our legislators also to maybe think about in possible policies or future funding opportunities that are available for regions and communities, and why that's important to growing the entire state of Indiana. So part of this, so this is an example of just the funding arts and culture. So with READY 1.0, we were able to fund the Gas City Performing Arts Center, which is a brand new facility, just a couple miles from the 69 exit there. And that was a $2.75 million READY investment, and the project cost about $20 million total. But it's a 1,200 seat auditorium, and it's been up and operating for about a year now, and it's just an incredible example of how a smaller community saw that need and saw that potential for opportunity, and made the investment to see that happen. So why is this all important? So a lot of the work that we do and what I hope to accomplish is helping to solve this problem of ECI's population and the decline. So this is a little outdated data, as this is from our redevelopment plan that we submitted with READY 2.0, but East Central Indiana, we peaked at 440,000 residents in 1970, and then we have been declining ever since. So I know in recent census data, some of our counties experienced a little bit of growth, compared to, like I said, this is 2021 and 2020 census data. But all in all, we're still seeing projections of decline. So how do we solve this issue? How do we attract talent? And also how do we retain our talent? Like I mentioned earlier, we have 8 higher ed institutions. So I think we're great at producing talent in the region, in our communities. But I think sometimes we see a lot of that exodus of talent that's happening. So with attracting and retaining talent, I truly feel that we have the opportunity to, here in the region, to prove that arts and culture and quality of life investments are not just amenities that look nice, but they are truly an economic strategy, and especially a strategy for the region as we look to grow instead of to face that potential decline. So I think by doing a few things that we can start to see the opposite of that happening, specifically by just investing boldly. I think we're at a critical inflection point here in East Central. Like I said, we've seen some growth in some of our counties. However, we're still facing that historic decline. So how do we solve this issue? And I think it's going to take bold strategies, and it's also going to take bold investment from our communities. to fund and to look at funding cultural and quality of life projects. And then I think we also need to collaborate regionally as well. Collaboration is a big part of what we do at Forge, so it's in my DNA naturally. But I've just seen the benefits of communities collaborating and then also cross-county collaboration over the past years, and it's just been incredible to see that investment. So continuing to encourage communities and organizations to continue to collaborate with one another. And then tell the story. I think we can always do a better job with telling like what we have to offer and marketing and strategies. But I think sometimes even just like minor things that seem insignificant, like engaging with a positive post from the Star Press on Facebook and being sharing positive Facebook comments, I think those have long-term impacts. I would love to see, I'm sure there's a study out there, somebody has done research on just the negative impacts that social media has had on community growth. I'm fairly certain there's probably data at this point that tells that story. But I think even just by small things like that, and also in our conversations, are we having positive conversations about the places we live in, and are we sharing that? I think this all speaks to just being able to champion the transformation of the region and the next step. So I just wanted to leave you with two thoughts, takeaways of just all of this wrapping up. To bring one new partner to the table with the work that you're doing. Is there an opportunity to involve an organization or someone that you maybe have not involved at this point? And I'd encourage you to also look at outside of the community to another community in the county or another county in the region. And I truly think there is significant impact in collaborating together and bringing people collectively to the table. And then just sometimes evaluate the community through the eyes of a potential new resident. I think this speaks to just the being positive about Muncie and the community and the region, and also what is missing when you look through the eyes. Like, is there something that we don't have that's low-hanging fruit maybe that doesn't, not maybe necessarily a $20 million performing arts center project, but like with Hartford City and what they did in an underutilized space. How can we be changing the narrative, and how can we be instilling that in our residents? So happy to answer any questions. Really just excited. I do feel like we're at a really interesting point with some funding opportunities here in the region, and just the collaboration, and specifically with the creative economy in East Central Indiana. So thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Yes. Yep. So there are several, we've been with the LEI funding, we've been working with counties on projects that they are working on to submit for that. And the deadline for that is actually in 2 weeks. And with Muncie, the Creative Corridor is a huge investment, potential investment here in the city of Muncie, and activating that corridor. So they've been working, the Community Foundation has been just been phenomenal at gathering partners together. Another really good example of just that collaboration and why that's key and that's important in this type of work. And so that's a great project that's happening that relates to this creative economy work and growing that in Muncie. And there's several other projects throughout the region that people are looking to submit. So I'm really optimistic about the region receiving funding for that. It's incredibly competitive. It's $65 million across the entire state of Indiana. However, I think we've got some fantastic projects, so I'm really excited about that potential investment. So thanks, Amy. Yep, that's good. Yes, so the application is due April. It is April. I was like, is that the month? April 15th. and then they will be making decisions in July and publicizing that. So then they'll spend the next couple of months reviewing applications. It's really important. So part of the review process will be a review of, does this project align with the regional arts and culture plan I shared earlier, and how does it align? And then the IEDC has brought together, they have a panel of individuals, and they haven't shared who's on that panel or kind of what spaces or spheres those individuals are from, but I'm guessing kind of a mix of obviously arts and culture, but also economic development as well with what the IEDC does to then review and score those projects. So we've been told that July will be when they publicize the funding for that. So.
How many counties do you serve?
We serve 9. So Blackford, Delaware, Fayette, Grant, Henry, Jay, Randolph, Rush, and Wayne.
So you said Henry, Jay, Rush,
Rush, Randolph, Rush, and Wayne. We don't, no, not Union. Yeah, that is neighboring us, but no, we don't serve Union. Yeah. Blackford, Delaware, I'll just go from the beginning because that's how my mind works. Blackford, Delaware, Fayette, Grant, Henry, Jay, Randolph, Rush, and Wayne. So.
Is it like your economic development is where the southern counties are different economic development that Union County
Yeah, so in terms of ready, outside of what, yeah, so the Union County's in a different ready region, so that's part of the challenge, I would say, with this state is over decades and decades, there's just been different regional entities. So we kind of have a regional soup going on in the state of Indiana, but that's not an easy problem to solve because you've got regional economic development organizations, you've got ready regions, you've got regional workforce regions. So it can be a bit confusing, but yeah, I think Union is in the southern ready region, but yeah. That's a great question. And that was a question that came up a lot as we were both in the process of creating the plan and then the post-publication of the plan is like, okay, this is great, but what from here? And in my vision, I don't want it to just be as a bridge, to this ready funding. It's like, okay, so we did this plan and that's its purpose. I want it to be something outside of that, and like I said earlier, it can be a resource to local arts organizations that are looking for federal funding or statewide funding that they can show, like, this is what we're doing not only on a local scale but a regional scale, and hopefully that's can aid in any grant funding that they do. But that's one of the things that's on my to-do list, this LEI. I've been waiting to get past this as part of the year, but that's really, I'm spending the next part of the year thinking about, okay, so then what's the next step for this plan? Like, how do we establish any KPIs? How do we track that? And there's certain things that I think are tangible things that even our organization can help facilitate. Like, I would love to see a regional event where we bring together just different arts organizations and artists together for a variety of, whether that's an educational or whether it's just a showcase of showing just the artists that we have in the region. So all that to say, that's not a super helpful answer, but at TBD, it is on my radar. But and I'm certainly open to input from you and other individuals in this sphere, because certainly don't want to go outside of the realm of what we do at Forge, and this is arts and culture space is definitely new to us and some of the work we're doing, so we'll definitely be looking to expertise from like what you and your board are doing and how we can partner.
I'm happy to help in any way, and part of my
No, and that's a great point. That's a great KPI to measure and to see as we continue to develop and Muncie and the region develops, like that specific growth in data. So, yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. It's all how you frame it, right? Yeah. Mhm. Right. And that's just why, I mean, people used to move to cities for jobs, but people are moving now for amenities and for arts and culture. And that's why this is just important. It's why it's an important economic strategy and something we're looking towards focusing on, because that's the key to growing and to retaining and attracting talent, is creating vibrant places that people want to live and then work and play as well. So. Mhm. Exactly. Right. Yeah, and I started to dive into some of those numbers and some like maybe smaller communities that are doing really well, and I'm like, I'm curious to do some more research and see like what some of those smaller communities, how did they invest, right? And what was their pivotal turning point to where they're now become this vibrant community, and what are some of their strategies that they did. So yeah, I really think that by focusing and working together, I think we're at a really interesting point in East Central Indiana, and I think if we just continue to invest and also work collaboratively together. Like, collaborative is one of my favorite words. I will say it over and over again, but I really do think collective impact is what drives growth. So, any other questions? Yeah.
Just curious, our culture, is this anybody talk about bringing creative language actually difficult,
Right. Mhm.
right? You know, I know you're looking at monthly.
Right.
And I know that it's pretty attractive.
Mhm.
We have elected population. I know the city has talked about the plan. It's really smart. I'm curious in this conversation, is that not brought up too much? Because that would be that. Connecting some of these big opportunities. I think
Accessible and inviting. Yep.
culturally inviting, not just the art,
Right. No.
not sure.
Yeah. No, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something, yeah, something to think about, and that previously, yeah, to add to the list of like what Forge does with how we help with this plan in communities, is that accessibility is really important, and that's, I mean, that's culture, right? And so that's important to our growth as well. And like you mentioned, we have higher ed institutions that, you know, are bringing in international students, and not just, you know, Muncie, but also, you know, Earlham College in Richmond. I mean, they largely have international students, and so there's just a wealth of opportunities to be showcasing, I think, more of that culture in some of our communities. So.
I was very comfortable around this about how it's especially the eastern part of the important constituent. That's where a higher level study to where the language is a little bit stronger than
Right. 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 Yep. Yeah. So it's definitely important that we look to that. Yeah. Anything else? Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. If we don't know each other, I would love to connect. Coffee is my bread and butter, so it's my life source. So happy to meet over coffee, and and just connect and see how we can potentially collaborate. So thank you again for your time, especially on a holiday. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
One more question. Maybe we're going to do this last. Yeah. I kind of equated ready now.
Yes.
Are those actually the direct way for their chief possible happening at all at the same time and actually do all the process?
Right. So, yep. So when Ready 2.0 program was announced, I believe the timeline probably 6 to 9 months later, then Governor Holcomb announced that Lilly Endowment had provided an additional $250 million to the Ready 2.0 program. So on top of the $500 million that was competitive throughout the regions, they provided 250 with 65 of that going to arts and culture, and I believe my math is correct, 185 going to blight and redevelopment projects. So they are connected in that way. It was just additional money that Lilly provided for those purposes.
But it's still
Yep. So it still works under the same umbrella with IEDC implementing that and with regional projects and everything. So, yeah. So whatever, I'm hopeful that we'll continue to see some regional investment in state programs in the future. I don't know anything definitively at this point, but I think it's been a catalyst for our growth. So I'm hoping we continue to see that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Creative economy, art, development, nation. So I would think this goes hand in hand in kind of conversation. I think project that was involved with then, the first big push on housing necessary, but back about taking on board the second phase. We're already in that space. Old West End, I think that's really strong. Community, it's still more eclectic, and so we're exploring how can the land bank help to maybe set the table a little bit to create a connection downtown, how to and the existing town. So it continues to be like a really road for us. How it fits in other places. More about whatever, all of the relevant. Next meeting, May 6th, I think. First.
Yeah, first Tuesday is Friday, so. No, not in this country. Labor Day, but not in this country.
That's right.
Not the rest of them, not like there's some other parts.
Next year, maybe some of the other, but at the idea conference, Holy Grade, works with the second ball state, presented kind of like right sizing, thinking about existing infrastructure, what it looks like, plan, so looking at the role of that theme of flourish, but that it's not necessarily traditionally kind of like growth focused, but more like how do you work with your brand and frameworks sorry, I think it would be really interesting. I heard a lot of great presentation. So please come back and let us know. Any last critics? Yeah, sure. Next week. 3 weeks. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Grab